Everyone's calling this the AI Super Bowl. We have the new Coke versus Pepsi, which is ChatGPT versus Anthropic. Why are all these AI companies, Alex, finally deciding, hey, let's use traditional advertising to reach mass audiences?
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't even think we know the full extent of all the AI brands that are going to show up. Nor do we know. I'm sure every SaaS or tech company that's out there is probably going to try to show up as an AI company as well. And so we're going to see a lot of AI. Why are they doing it? Well, I think when you look at sentiment, generally speaking, in the US around AI topics, there's a lot of not only fear and apprehension and skepticism towards it, but outright just rejection, actually, of the topic of AI. I think I just saw a stat moments ago that layoffs are reaching levels they have not reached since the Great Recession of 2008. So whether that's actually due to AI or whether it's other factors well outside of that sphere, the swirl of it all, of AI is on the rise, economy feels a little bit like it's teetering, and yet here are these companies pouring tens of millions of dollars into telling us to adopt their platforms. I think the goal of the AI companies is to, in many ways, become more familiar to Americans, to essentially plead their case as to why what they're doing is valuable to the average person. There's a lot of talk about the gains to the very elite few, the Sam Altmans of the world, et cetera. But I think a lot of people feel like, okay, if this is all hurtling forward, where's my role in this new economy? And so I think the AI companies have a job to do, which is to show human beings how these tools can help them as humans, both in their life and in their work. And I think a lot of companies are at a point in their journey with respect to AI where they've reached insane growth trajectories, but they actually need to now get out of the early adopter, sort of like the coastal and Austin, Texas bubble,
Yeah.
and say, like, how do we actually reach into some of the areas that have been slowest to adopt? Because they're no longer just in that early part of the bell curve of early adopters anymore. So I think the job to be done is to plead the case to the average American as to why they should not only not fear AI, but why they should be curious and excited maybe to check it out. So I think we're going to see a lot of it.
Now, the Anthropic ad, most people have seen it. If you're watching us and you haven't watched it, you should go do so. It's sort of a diss track in the sense that it's saying like, hey, we're not going to have ads on, in our large language model. It's quite interesting to see them running an ad saying they're not going to have ads. And that is sort of getting some people who might be maybe a little anxious over, wait a minute, how are we going to reach all these people at scale if there's no ads within these systems? What do you think is sort of the future there in terms of how they're trying to set up their product?
Yeah. First of all, I loved the ad. I thought it was so well done.
Same.
I
Yeah.
think Anthropic and Claude have been notable for their focus on brand, which I think ultimately building trust is the bridge to adoption. I think
Yeah.
in AI and any new quote unquote scary technology, especially one like AI, there needs to be a sense that, like, hey, I can trust fundamentally this platform and the people behind it. Google did a really good job of that, 20 years ago with Don't Be Evil. People have questioned that over the years, but generally speaking, they've done a pretty good job staying like mostly not evil, right? And I think that ethos allowed them to earn the trust of so many people, right? I think with AI companies, they now face a similar but maybe even steeper uphill climb to earn trust. I think Anthropic has far and away done an excellent job with it. Arguably, you could say ChatGPT maybe has done a even better job in the big picture because they've just grown so much. They became synonymous with AI. So they clearly did a very, very good job convincing people through their product magic that they are the ones, right? And so now Claude has to do this brand thing to be the Pepsi, as you put it, to their Coke, right?
Yeah.
As for the ad, first of all, yeah, love it. It's so well shot. It's so well done. The humor is just there. And the ultimate win for Claude in all of this is that even without mentioning OpenAI by name, Sam Altman today came out and said, "Well, that's not really how we're doing it." And like he basically played right into their hand and looked completely caught off guard by this ad.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't specifically about OpenAI, it clearly was, right? So I thought it was a masterstroke in that way. However, it's also a little bit dangerous, right? Because I think that the negative of taking this approach, if you're Claude, is you're also basically just showing a dystopian future for that they're part of, right? Like, and so, yeah, they're saying no ads right now. That's convenient for Super Bowl 2026. But we all remember, like, when cable came out, it was supposed to be ad free because you're paying. When Netflix came out, there was no, tier for ads. So I guarantee you, I don't know what year it's going to happen, but it's what is it? It's 2026 February right now. Play this clip in 5 years, and I guarantee you by then, Claude will have ads on its platform in some form. I'm just going
There,
to call the shot right now.
there you
Um,
go.
hey, how do
There
you
you
monitor?
go.
And Sam Altman's case, which is legitimate, is that they've reached the point where they have so many paying users that they want to expand access to more people. You can poke holes in that argument. Clearly, if you're putting ads into the product in the way that the ad describes, it's a bad user experience. So I think to take his side for a second, the argument is, well, I think he even said this. There are more free ChatGPT users in the state of Texas than Claude has users in the United States. So his point is simply, we've reached the point where we're trying to let people use it for free. We're exploring ad options to allow that to be true. We're going to try to do it respectfully. That's their position. Claude is playing the challenger role very well. And I think they deserve a lot of applause for that. But I do question whether they're going to be able to maintain such a purity around the advertising topic in AI for very long. But points awarded. I think points on the board for
I'm
Anthropic.
glad you pointed that out in terms of they're playing the challenger role. It is a classic business case. You have the incumbent, you have the challenger. They're both making very interesting moves in terms of how a business would behave. That sort of is the dominant one, and the other one that wants to sort of uproot that. And still in an early stage part of, I think, large language model usage. It's not like it's tipped totally mainstream in the sense that, you and I might be using that for a lot of search. A large part of the global population is still not. So there's a lot of room to move there.
It's funny because they're punching up, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't think anyone watches that ad and thinks, oh, they've just articulated a product roadmap for the next 10 years. It's like they're just making a joke. You know what I mean? Which is, we're doing things differently over here. And they're just trying to get noticed, right? They are competing against the 800-pound gorilla of all 800-pound gorillas in ChatGPT and OpenAI. They got to make a play. You know what I mean? So I think for that, they deserve some credit.
Now, you brought up that there are going to be like almost every company is probably going to try to position itself in the form of, having AI. Have we seen any other examples out there of companies that are not like technically AI companies, but are going to try to play up some of those, features in their Super Bowl spots, or at least try to align themselves as, technically forward?
We know Salesforce is going to show up with something. I would be shocked if we didn't hear anything either in the game or around the game from like the Adobes and Microsofts of the world. So there are a number of brands that are making genuine moves, not to mention Google, in AI. They may not be AI native companies because they predate the AI movement, but we're going to see a lot of that. I think this is not what you're asking about, but the one that is getting the most negative noise right now is the Svedka vodka people who decided for some unknown reason to just create an AI generated ad, which obviously the reason is to get attention, but it's
Yeah.
like, it could not be more random. I mean, I remember when a few years ago, they like randomly introduced that robot and you're like, wait, isn't that like the,
Yes.
the vodka on
Yes.
the bottom shelf? Like, what are we doing here? And now they're doing an AI robot apparently. So apparently we cannot agree on a single thing in this country or this world right now, Jeff, but we can agree that no one asked for a Svedka AI robot. That is unanimous. That is unanimous. So I think, if that was their goal to bring the people together, then thank you, Svedka vodka.
My gosh. How about the biggest category, automobile brands? I'm curious to see what they play up in terms of AI features in the cars, because we haven't seen much of this, Alex. And I'm curious to see, wait, that new automobile is coming out and there's a lot of AI features in it. I think usually those companies are good about keeping that stuff under wraps until they, you know, prevail it. But I'm curious, what you think will happen there, if there'll be any interesting features.
To see it too. I've seen the Jeep spot, which I thought was great. There are a few really. I'm sure we can count on a few automotive examples, but Actually, what I'm seeing from a lot of categories is a desire to almost take us back in time to a simpler, kinder, gentler era that wasn't so bruising on both the political front, the technological front, the economic front. I think there's going to be a lot of retro. There's always a little bit of retro in the Super Bowl, right? Because people
Yeah.
play to the 90s and the 80s and the feel good, music and all this. But I think there's going to be an extra amount of retro in this Super Bowl. And I think the automotive brands are probably going to want to, as much as they want to show their advanced new stuff and EVs and AI enabled voice commands and all these things. I think the takeaway people are going to probably get from a lot of ads is like, it's okay, right? Like we can, we're here, we've been here, and there's going to be a lot of that. I think people trying to just feel familiar and a little bit of humor, more so than in last year's Super Bowl. I think we can
Yeah.
expect to see. It's kind of, I don't know if you've noticed, Jeff, but it's a little gnarly out there in the world, and I think people um, are looking for a little break. And I think the ads this year are going to reflect that.
I agree with you on that. I think there'll be more of a human touch, more of a human sentiment. I mean, humor always works, but I think like we might see some more emotional, empathetic commercials too from some brands that they don't want to come across polarizing, but they also realize, look, we need a unifying voice here. A lot of people are just sort of in a place of where they're just, a lot of anger at the moment. And how do you quell that? You try to sort of unify everyone. What is the thing that we are going to wake up and probably talk most about on the day after as Monday morning quarterbacks?
I mean, I hope it's the football, but I think it's going to be how many AI ads there were. I think it's just going to be the topic, and it's going to be interesting to see who can stand out. Already in early polling data, sentiment data, there is an overwhelming amount of negative feeling towards these AI ads. And I think it's just going to be really interesting to see if all the activity almost runs counter to its purpose by accident. I think the few ads will stand out. I think the ones that manage to speak to people in a human way that doesn't freak them out. And actually, as much as we industry people might really love the Anthropic one, and I think a lot of people will love it because it's just funny. It's objectively funny. I do wonder what it's going to do. Is it going to really make people switch, or is it just going to make people recoil from the category a little bit? So I think there's no doubt this is going to be the AI Super Bowl, and I think it's everyone's job to keep focused on where AI can help them in their work, in their life, and I think it'll maybe we'll learn something new. Maybe we'll see a new AI product. Maybe we'll see a new way to integrate it into a car or whatever it might be that'll inspire us to do something new. But I'm just hoping to have a good time, have a couple laughs, maybe see something that I didn't expect. And ultimately, I think it's an interesting mile marker on the journey of adoption for AI that the companies are now at this point of maturation where they need to get outside the early adopter group and start
Yeah.
talking to the whole world. And so I
Yeah.
think that's what we're going to remember the Super Bowl for.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll have to gather around on the other side of it all to sort of assess where things are going, but always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you on the next one.